is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Justified, Season 5, Episode 11, The Toll. In this episode, wow, Daryl turns out to be even more of a shitbag than I thought. And I really already thought he was a pretty big shitbag, so wow, props to you. Welcome to Unspoiled.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off with lonesome. I'm fighting for my soul, God, get at you, boy. You try to go on, fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off with lonesome. Hi, everybody.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the show. I'm Natasha.
And I am Alan. And Daryl is irredeemable.
Oh my God, yo, when Kendall's making his confession, the expression on Raylan's face was everything. He is just so squinty in that moment. He's just so very like, this is happening. Okay, we're just going to do this. And his mother is sitting there. His mother is sitting there and just like letting him do this. The fuck?
I was trying to figure out if she believed him or not in that moment. Because she's in tears, but is she in tears because Daryl is making him do this, or is she in tears because she believes what he's saying?
That's... Okay, so... I haven't decided what I think she believes. But if she does believe him, she's an idiot. It's so easy, knowing Kendall, to know that this is so not how he would have handled that situation. I mean, you just don't... There is not... This kid is not the I'm going to reach for my gun when I see a badge kind of thing. This isn't who he is. Like, he is... Of course, his family... Like, he's talking about, his family being persecuted and everything by... And... While that's a bit of a reach, I think there's part of that that's true. But that doesn't change what your instincts are in the moment, because that really comes down to like the kind of person you are. And he is somebody that would back away with his hands up because he doesn't want to get nailed for like drawing on somebody with a badge. Like that's... And if she does not know something that basic about not even her own child, her own brother, if we're going to go with that narrative... She doesn't know him at all. And maybe she doesn't. She hasn't been around that much, so maybe she doesn't. But I just cannot fathom how she could believe this. So all I can think is she knows that he's covering for her brother, and she feels guilty about getting in a fist fight with him and is offering up her son/brother for a sacrifice to try and, like, fix things. And that's just so gross. So everybody in that family's on my shit list right now, except for Kendall. And Kendall is he's on probation because of agreeing to do this at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, obviously we just got way, way ahead of ourselves, but it's a pretty big, every season at some point has something that really drives the season towards its, climax. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this episode just escalated things in a way that I haven't felt all season.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. So should we dive into it?
Yeah, let's back it up and start from the start.
All right.
From the start.
So rewinding, we are season 5, episode 11, The Toll. Written by Benjamin Cavill, directed by John Avnet, both long time Justified people. And we open in the jailhouse bathroom in the aftermath of Judith's murder. Mm-hmm. And Ava cleans up. The ward goes into lockdown. And Penny seems to save her ass kind of at the end because she missed a little bit of blood.
Mm-hmm. And she's about to wipe it on her white towel like a genius.
Yeah.
Oh, Ava, come on, lady. Get it together.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit, like... I had a little bit of an issue with the fact that the show starts with her, like, washing off and in fresh clothes already, because I want to know how this works. I don't know how she gets to the bathroom and starts to wash off and nobody has, like, again, when she left the chapel, I was like, where is everyone?
Right.
I don't know how their clothes are rationed out. Like, do they get given a new outfit at the top of each day, or do they have like a week's worth of laundry? Or because it doesn't look like when you look at their beds and stuff like they have any storage or anything. So where did she get the spare clean shirt and whatnot?
That's a good question.
There's just a few things here that I feel like they really expect me to just be like, all right, so they managed that. And, you know, like, it's not like this shit doesn't happen. There are people who get stabbed in prison and, you know, it's just everybody keeps their mouths shut and whatever. But this just felt kind of like Deus Ex clean shirt to me. So
I think that's fair. I could hand wave it as, you know, they had set up this whole drug thing in the past with corrupt guards and the corrupt plumber and all of that stuff. If Rowena really is the piece of shit that she seems to be,
right,
that, you know, maybe she could have this sort of thing organized for Ava to have a clean opening to get to Judith to take care of this extra favor. But it's a pretty big hand wave.
Yeah.
So... so yeah, but
I thought that this scene was pretty intense though. Like I liked the way that it was filmed and everything. Like there's the overhead shot as everybody gets down. And so the
cops in full riot gear.
Right, exactly. Like it was very intense. So despite my irritation at feeling like they just did not explain how she gets away with this at all, I thought that the aftermath of it felt really like, oh shit. So I liked that.
Cool. We go away from the jail now. I don't think we come back for most of the rest of the episode. We go instead to Audrey's, and Boyd and Terry are sharing a drink. And I'm learning from Amazon X-Ray that Terry was prom queen and homecoming queen her senior year of high school.
This is in the X-Ray?
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad. Like, when your acting credits are so nothing that's what's in her trivia?
Right?
Like, that feels kind of insulting. All right.
A little bit.
All right, fine.
Yeah. Reaching a little bit. But anyway, Terry gets paid for, bagging Ficus last episode. And she comes on to Boyd pretty strong.
Yeah.
And he is, not interested.
Yeah, he seems He seems like he kind of... It seems like he considers it for a second because he's angry at Ava.
Yes, he doesn't react as strongly as he would have reacted 6 episodes ago.
Yeah. He just sort of looks at her like, well, that's an idea. And then he gets interrupted and he's like, well, you know what, never mind. But it definitely looks like he is tempted by the general concept for a second.
Right. Right. Boyd, though, gets interrupted by a call from Duffy, and he agrees to go to a meeting. And he says that he believes the time has come to start making some changes. And then he bums cigarettes off Terry. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice setup for us to not think there's something weird about his cigarettes later on.
Yeah, that's a fun little Chekhov cigarette pack for the whole episode. At Allison's, we see that Allison has met Art and she is packing a suitcase. And she's fairly nonchalant about all of her, drug paraphernalia.
Yeah, she's just picking shit up and just like, yeah, well, you see, you're an adult, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
All right, I guess. I kind of expected that to be more of a thing that when he gets shot, somebody else comes down on her for what's found in her luggage. And I guess there's no real reason for them to investigate her shit. But for some reason, I thought because of the way the camera zeroed in on it when she goes and grabs her stuff, that she was going to have to face some consequences for that. You know what I mean?
I kind of feel like if everything had gone according to plan, she and Art probably would have had a conversation about that at some point.
Yeah, maybe.
If they hung around one another long enough, because he definitely notices, and he's not okay with it, but it's neither the time nor the place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Art, unlike Raylan, seems to understand that there are, moments when you should just keep your mouth shut. So weird.
Yes. And they have fun little small talk, and I really like the chemistry that the two of them have.
Yeah, same.
And she mentions Raylan's black eye and that he knows how he got it, but not why. And Art says to her, well, let me ask you this. If I were to admit to hitting him, could you call it child abuse and take custody of him for me?
She just goes, oh, I like you. I loved that moment. I really did.
Yeah, people who have had it with Raylan's shit.
To be honest, I had forgotten that she and Raylan had officially split up. I had it in mind here that she was fed up with him and it was pretty much over, but I didn't really realize that. I didn't remember that they had the for real conversation. So yeah, that was when she says that, and she's like, did he mention that we split up? I was like, oh yeah, right, I forgot.
Yeah, I think we don't get a good indicator of the season of what the timeline has been for this season. So we don't really know how long they were together. So I never gave it enough credit that people would know, or them being there'd be a relationship to split up from. But neither here nor there, I guess. But yeah, Raylan definitely, told her all his secrets, kind of.
Yeah. So yeah, this scene, I just didn't expect this attack this way.
No.
I really didn't. It feels so Spider-Man villainy to go after the girlfriend that I really kind of thought, Raylan was doing the smart thing and just, getting her some protection, getting her out of the way because it's wise, but not really thinking that anything is going to go down. And I sure don't think anything's going to go down because we're not mustache twirling villains who just go after somebody's girlfriend, especially ex-girlfriend, but don't keep up with the times on that, I guess.
Right.
So I expected this to be more of maybe the two of them running up against Raylan again. Maybe that she goes with Art and things seem like they're gonna be fine, and then Raylan has to stir the pot some more and then draw attention to the two of them or something. But the fact that it adds up so quickly, the scene just felt like table setting, and then it starts to go down immediately, and I was like, oh, all right, I guess that's happening right away. I just wasn't ready at all. So props to this show for keeping me on my toes. They really managed to do that a lot of the time. I don't know why I'm not more on my guard, but there it is.
Yeah. It's a great scene, and it does, shootout comes out of nowhere. It's super intense for, 15 seconds. And then we cut to the aftermath, and Art is, Superman in this scene, by the way. Maybe not Superman, but, Clint Eastwood or something. And we see, though, that Allison got shot, except...
and they got me with this, too. I totally thought she got shot.
Right? It's his blood. He doesn't even know it. I love that he doesn't even realize.
Yeah.
And scary moment. At least it was for me.
And I'm sure that shit happens, people getting shot and not quite realizing it because adrenaline's running and everything, but that's just so crazy to me. Just even though I know it does happen... The idea of being that, amped up that you don't notice a bullet in your gut? What? Jesus Christ.
No kidding.
There's a book that I will be covering at some point, and a character thinks that he has, superpowers, but it turns out that he's just basically had his, limits turned off, and his adrenaline is up all the time. So he thinks that he has more capacity to deal with pain and he has more strength, but really he's just on an adrenaline high all the time. And it's fucking with his body because adrenaline like that at this like constant level is super unhealthy for you. So it's a kind of interesting moment because, you know, he's walking around with a bit of a swagger thinking that he's unbreakable when in fact the thing that's causing him to feel that way is what's breaking him. And
you like completely captured my imagination with this.
It's a really neat idea.
Yeah.
And this kind of thing is stuff that, like, you know, he'll get really injured and not notice right away because the adrenaline just keeps him from feeling the pain. And that's just such a crazy thing that adrenaline can even do that. Like, just adrenaline being able to do that and also, like, give you strength. Like, what kind of crazy shit is adrenaline? It's just bananas that our body can make something that has the capacity to, like, accomplish these sorts of things.
Yeah, I kind of, you know, I guess I'm a little bit inoculated against that because there are so many video games out there, like first-person shooters or whatever, where they realize that the idea of like a med pack that's bright white with a red cross on it is kind of unrealistic, but the idea of shooting yourself up with adrenaline to keep going and restore your health is totally a thing. So that makes all the sense in the world to me, but I love the idea of putting that in a book and turning that into like a serious plot to chew around in. That's not a thing. Those words don't work together, but you know what I mean. Yeah, you will have to tell me more
dig
about this
into.
book.
Is that what you're trying to say?
There we go.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that I was going for.
All right.
But yeah, you'll have to fill me in more about that off air because I'm really interested.
Okay, cool. I will. Yeah, I don't want to spoil people, so I won't say what it is, but yeah, I'll tell you.
So, all right. So we go to credits after this. We come back to Raylan and Art's wife, although I don't think we've met her before.
No, I don't think so. I really, like, it takes me a minute to really get who she is because I didn't think that Raylan was going to be the one to drive her.
Yeah.
You know, really, why does she need somebody to drive her is really the thing. She should, like, question. You know, but it's, for the story, I understand that they need him to have this conversation with her where she's just like mildly accusing. She's not really, you know, saying it's his fault, but she really is just kind of like, what the fuck? And even though Art made the choice that he did, he made that choice because Raylan has been like the worst. So that is kind of on you, Raylan. Sorry, buddy.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it goes from real casual conversation about Winona and Raylan's daughter in South Florida, and then it just sort of turns. Like you said, it doesn't get like really dark and accusatory, but all the same, it's just, I just want to know why you weren't where you were supposed to be.
Yep.
And she says it in just this manner where she's clearly like in shock over this. She can't muster the emotion to put behind that, but it's such a damning thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they get to the hospital, and Leslie is her name. She goes with the doctor. Art does not look good. He's got the oxygen mask on. Lost a lot of blood, we hear.
He's in extremely critical. Nobody likes those combination of words.
Yeah, not so good. Not so good. So she leaves, and then Raylan kind of huddles up with Rachel and Tim to break down what's going on. And Raylan immediately zeroes in on Daryl, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And Rachel pulls him back and says, well, that's not your call. The chief deputy is coming down from Detroit, and he's going to head up the investigation and run the office. And he's probably going to want to go right for Theo Tonin because Art was just involved in capturing him.
Mm-hmm. Which frustrated me because the whole reason that Art was that he took it upon himself to protect Amy is because they knew somebody might take a shot at her. So why don't we assume that it's the guy that he was put there to protect her from instead of this convoluted thing where they just happen to be following him while he's with Amy and it's Theo Tonin? What are you talking about?
That's actually a really good point.
It just really frustrated me that they kept on arguing with him on this. Like, this was a very cut and dried thing. He was there because they thought this would happen, and it happened. Why are we overcomplicating it? Like, but, you know.
Yep. Good point. Anyway, yeah, that's what she expects. I guess you could say that this Kirkland, the chief deputy, is interested in Theo Tonin because that's been the the guy he's been chasing for however long, and now they have him, he won't speak, so maybe he's just got such a hard-on for this guy.
Yeah, right. That's
the way he's going to take it. But, yeah, good point. Rachel leaves, though, and Tim says to him, it's that we have a little while before Kirkland shows up, so we should try to go catch up with Daryl out in the wild world.
I was pretty surprised by this. What's up?
Yeah. He's like, really? And you think that that's what Art would want? And Tim says, well, I think he'd do it for us. And Raylan's response is, well, with all due respect, Tim, I don't think you know Art as well as I do.
Yeah. I didn't really like the way he was like as dismissive of him as he was. Like...
I think that was Raylan's snark overcoming his common sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just, Raylan, like, you don't really get to do that. Oh, somebody wants to basically take down, even though they're not kind of supposed to, and you're going to try and take the high ground on that? Raylan? You really want to do that? Like, dude, I just, I get
that's fair.
That he maybe is finally starting to hear some of the shit that Art said to him now that Art is literally on his deathbed, and he's like, oh, maybe there's a lesson there. I'm hoping that that's what this is, but maybe, I've been proven wrong about Raylan's intelligence in the past, so, but, yeah, it just felt pretty rich for him to be like, Art wouldn't want that. Oh, shut up, you baby. We all know Art wouldn't want half the shit you did, and you did it anyway, but that's fine. I have a lot of patience with Raylan, obviously.
Yeah, well, I think he's earned about as much patience as you give him. So, back at Audrey's, Boyd is sitting in the back room, toying with some wire, and thinking. Speaking of which, did you see that, what's his name? The actor, Walton Goggins, just got cast in the new Ant-Man sequel?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, I don't know who he's going to be, but I am excited.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Ant-Man's villains or anything, so and he might not be a villain. He might... But
he's a villain. Who we
I mean, I hope he is, because he's great as a villain.
Yeah,
so.
Well, actually, somebody, I think this was actually in the Unspoiled group, somebody brought it up, and somebody put the idea of MODOK, who is basically a giant face with huge teeth and arms and legs.
Oh my god. If that's what it is, that's kind of rude. Like, oh, that's amazing.
I can't imagine we'd ever actually see a MODOK on screen, but I never thought we'd see Ego the Living Planet on screen, and they pulled that off, so who knows?
I'm totally looking up MODOK now to see. Oh, ew, it's creepy.
Yeah, it's a...
He's like a baby. Oh, I hate it. Yeah. I hate it. Don't do it, guys, please. It's awful. Oh, God.
Yeah, we shall see, but I'm excited to see him in that movie, because I'm excited to see him in everything. So anyway, Boyd is sitting there, and he is toying with wire, and he's toying with the cigarettes, and that's just totally stage business. Please pay no attention.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking to Jimmy and Carl, and tells them that he is meeting with Duffy and Picker, and he then tells them, he's got to go there and tell them how they lost half the heroin shipment.
Yeah.
Which they're trying to argue we didn't lose it, but really that doesn't matter. So he's got to take some kind of action.
Yeah, I really liked this scene because I don't feel like we get enough of, because Boyd has new guys frequently. We don't get a lot of setup with his relationship with them. They'll just turn up, and we just have to take it that this is somebody that he trusts now. And I liked that we got to see him talk to them and see them really like being ready to take some shit if they need to. And without this scene, I don't think I would have trusted his judgment on letting a couple of his dudes go walk off with his whole half of the stash. Like,
okay,
you know what I mean? I would have been like, really? I hope this goes how you think, but Lord knows we all have thought that we had the upper hand with our guys all season, and everybody's been wrong. So I really hope that they haven't, like, I hope that they don't kill these guys off this season, because I feel like I finally really see them as, like, right-hand men. And I don't want them to, like, have done that thing where they set it up that you actually kind of care about a person now, so that when they die, it's, like, more effective.
Right.
I want them to stick around so that I feel like Boyd is starting to rebuild things a little bit, because he just hasn't been able to have a stable cadre of goons to depend on for a while. Everybody keeps getting killed, so... You know, having the same guys for a bit, that would do a lot to instill some confidence in me.
Agreed.
Yeah. So
yeah, and they've done a good job this season, particularly with Jimmy, who's been around for a while, but he was normally just like the barman in the background.
Yeah, and he's so young that you also kind of feel like, does he even know what he's doing? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But we've seen him. We learned he speaks Spanish. He and Boyd had that scene an episode or two ago where he talks about how, like, he'd die for him, but he doesn't really think that this is the right move. Like, they've really done a very good job of turning them into part of the gang. So, good job, writers.
Yeah, I like this. I like this scene a lot. And there's just, I don't know, there's a good chemistry between Boyd and these two actors. Like, they just really feel like they're on the same page here and that they really trust each other. And that's kind of a rare thing to feel any chemistry between, like, the guy who's the boss and his people. It's not really something that even really feels like it matters a lot of the time. It's not even something that I would say that I miss if it's not there. So the fact that I felt it here is so rare that I noticed it. And I was like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting. Okay. So anyway, we'll see if that turns out to be anything later, but I liked it for now.
Yeah, definitely. And he does let them know he doesn't really know what's going to happen when he takes this meeting. So the half of the heroin that they do have, they need to go hide it somewhere that God can't even find it.
Yeah, I like that.
And he makes them promise if he does not make it out of this, that they need to see that Ava gets whatever she needs to work with that nurse so she stays alive.
Yeah.
In prison.
Yeah, another thing that I, again, would not have really trusted. But now I'm like, yeah, they'll do that.
Yeah.
That's nice, you know, because it's something that you see in a lot of, like, mobster movies and stuff, that they'll say they're going to take care of somebody. And it's sort of, you wind up finding out what the quality of the people is like on whether or not they actually follow through with that and how solid the operation is too.
So the next morning, Raylan talks to Allison at the Marshall station. She's doped up and sort of stashed in Art's office because they don't really have the manpower to just have somebody supervise her anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And they talk a little bit, and she's feeling sad, but she's also kind of dopey.
Accurate.
And yeah. And then Raylan goes and he meets with Kirkland, who's shown up, and they kind of have a pissing contest.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah, I say that like that's a revelation. But Kirkland doesn't want Raylan on the streets. He wants him in the office to be his right-hand man. And Raylan says, yeah, that's code for I'm the office pain in the ass, and do you want to keep me close?
Which, you know what? Maybe don't tell him you're totally aware of that, and then just do the thing low-key that you want to do. It just was so silly to me that he comes out and it's just like, oh, really? So what you're saying is you need to keep an eye on me. Dude, if you know that, if you're aware, just be cool. Just act like you don't know that. And go and do some shit and then be like, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I just took care of that. I didn't think it was a big deal. Since I'm your right-hand man, I thought you trust me to make that kind of decision.
Yeah, Raylan's too much of an alpha for that, especially in the absence of art.
That
to
is
rein him in.
exactly correct. That's I didn't even put it into those words, but you are dead on that he is too much of a fucking alpha to do that. Oh, Raylan, you're such a pain in the ass. Good thing he fine.
Yeah, he's got that going for him at least. So yeah, the meeting is not off to a great start, but before things can go further downhill, David Vasquez shows up, and he announces that Theo Tonin, they talked to him, and he admitted to it. He admitted that he ordered the hit on Art. He even signed an affidavit to that effect, and he's going to tell them who the shooter is. Out of nowhere.
That is so rude. When he says that, he admitted to it, I was like, oh, this motherfucker. I didn't even think who it was. It didn't occur to me, maybe there's somebody that he wants to get out of the way, and until he says, he even will tell you. The instant when he's just like, he admitted to it, I was like, I thought he had a vested interest in keeping it under wraps who did do it. I was like, maybe it wasn't Daryl after all. Maybe he does know who it was, but he's like redirecting them because it would be, to his benefit or something. And then once you find out, I'm like, of course. That's actually really smart, Tonin. Good job. I'm mad at you.
Even from prison, off screen, he manages to throw wrenches and things.
Fuck shit up.
Right. So, before we can find out who he's saying the shooter is, we go to Boyd, and he is meeting in a hotel with Picker and Duffy and Catherine. And Picker seems very much in charge, and we've seen him step more and more into this role, but he is really clearly running this meeting.
Mm-hmm. I don't care for it. I was really glad that he died because he reminded me a little bit, to make a Godfather reference since I just watched that. He was a little bit of those of you who are patrons can listen to that episode. He was...
Still gotta listen to that.
What's the oldest son's name with the R?
Sonny.
No, Sonny. Yeah, why did I get R? Yeah, he was just starting to fly off the handle too much, man. He can't control himself.
That's fair.
It was because I would have said a few episodes ago, I get you're having a vote of no confidence when it comes to Boyd. And this guy does seem to have his shit together, so I can't even really blame you. But as things continue, he's starting to just become more and more... It's almost like he's grown so confident that there's no way this dude's going to pick Boyd over him, that it's just impatience at this point because he thinks that the outcome is inevitable. Can we just get it over with? I know you're going with me. Do you know what I mean? There's an overconfidence.
But like you said, at the same time, I get the impression that he's come up with what he believes is a very good plan, and as soon as that plan starts to go off the rails, he can't improv.
Yeah, that's fair too.
So he just sort of starts to lose again, kind of like Sonny. He's way too. He feels something, something goes wrong or something different than he expects, and that just causes way too much. He has to act on his emotions, or it lets him cloud his judgment to way too much.
Yeah, that's a good point on the improving.
So yeah, he was never going to be the guy. I liked him a lot as the sort of street level, world weary hitman that we first saw him as.
Right.
And yeah, he just doesn't fit in this role. So this was inevitable. Maybe not this specific thing, but yeah.
Yeah. For
the time being, though, he seems very much in charge. And he wants to know what happened to our half of the dope. And which I don't know. I'm not there. You will have to ask Daryl Crow, and that doesn't make him happy.
No. So
they want to know what happened to that half of the dope. Boyd's answer is shit happens. Well, what happened to the other half? Sometimes it don't. It's nice and succinct.
Yeah. Oh, and there's like that little face off because when he's getting patted down, this dude is like sure that Boyd's got something on him. And Duffy's like, if he says there's nothing on him, there's nothing on him. And Picker's like, check him again. And that's when the dude is like, what's this? And he should, a vice I picked up again or something like that. And has a cigarette pack.
Calls it my secret shame.
My secret shame. Right. And at that moment, I was like, oh, what's that about? But it has been so long since we've seen Boyd blow shit up that I forgot that's a specialty of his. Which is kind of funny because I think I brought up earlier this season, or maybe late last season, that was something he did all the time because there was a question on when, like, who caused an explosion somewhere. And I was like, well, we know Boyd does that. But yeah. I promptly forgot about it. And it wouldn't even if I did remember that, I don't think it would ever have occurred to me that he could fit something into that little fucking cigarette pack. Like, what? I didn't know that was a thing.
It's a fun little mystery because as soon as you see it come up again,
yep,
you go like, you know, not in the last scene in the back room, but in this scene particularly, they pick it up and make a note of it. You go like, all right, what's up with the cigarette pack?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it a folded up gun in there? Is there a what could that possibly be? Because it's got to be something.
I thought that he was recording or something, which really doesn't make any sense because we know he's not a snitch and we don't want him on tape saying some incriminating shit either. But it was the only thing that I could think of to fit in a little thing like that, you know?
No, that makes total sense, except for the lot. Yeah, it's the right size, but the logic's not there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So, after things sort of break down between Picker and Boyd, Catherine jumps in and she talks to him for a little bit. And when he realizes who she is, he is really impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And falls all over himself to pay her compliments.
Yep.
And she eventually lets him know, like, yeah, she's here because she's trying to see if she can come up with a reason why Duffy and Picker shouldn't kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
I love the look that he gets on his face when she says that. Like, I'm hoping she sticks around for a little bit because I just still don't really get her deal. And the fact that, what's his face later, like, was hoping she was dead. That's pretty serious thing to just, like, lay out there. What's her deal, man? She's got a lot of questions.
They very clearly have a history.
Yep.
And I like her, like, real sort of socialite secret identity, I guess. I mean, we don't really see her be anything other than, you know, the 2 or 3 scenes she's been in. But, like, in season 2, we had the crime mama, whose name I'm forgetting. And she kind of had the secret identity of, like, I'm just a general store owner.
Mags?
And I make, Mags, thank you. And that's all I do, and I'm just a down-home country girl, and I throw square dances. But I'm secretly a drug lord. And that's fine, and that totally worked, and I like season 2 a lot, but I really like her. She's very classy, and she's very much, she feels very above a lot of the people that we have seen.
Yeah, definitely. She gives the impression of being a lot smarter, and that's why she is out here still at her age doing what she does.
Yes. Yeah, and she gives off a much different vibe than the other people we've seen, like Quarles or Nikki, what's his name, from last season.
Mm-hmm.
Who, but yeah, I think it's the intelligence that comes off of her. So I like her a lot. When Boyd learns that he's probably is very close to being shot right now, he pauses to have a cigarette, and they mention it's a non-smoking room. He goes to go light up, and the room suddenly fills with feds because the hotel takes their non-smoking policy very seriously.
I was cracking up. I loved that. Wow. Gee. What a lucky thing that Boyd did not activate whatever was in that pack a second before they got busted on, because that would have been an unfortunate waste. Yikes.
Yeah, it's very true. And I wonder if we see how it eventually goes down, but just how willing he was to blow up both of them.
Mm-hmm.
If he really was just going to try to take out Picker. I wonder how willing he'd be to take Duffy as collateral damage, because they really do seem to respect each other.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that in this moment, I think that, obviously he had been planned this before they ever walked in here and he saw it all. But I think that it's really like hammered home here that Picker is so not on the same page as Duffy, that they do not work well together, that Duffy is trying to determine what business-wise is the best choice, but it won't exactly be a huge loss to him if it turns out that Picker's not part of the equation anymore, Yeah. So
that's true. So, but we don't see that alternate reality. Instead, they all get busted. And we go back to Marshal's headquarters. And everyone, there's all sorts of activity and whatever after the bust. And Raylan and Vasquez are sort of tossing around the possibility that everything that they're hearing from Tonin is just bullshit. When Vasquez learns that Catherine Hale is in the building, and it completely grabs his attention. He has got eyes for nobody but her.
Yeah.
As soon as he finds out that she's there.
Yeah, it's sort of a weird thing because Vasquez is just such a nobody in a lot of ways. Like, when he shows up, I usually enjoy him. But he's not somebody that I expect the plot to, build a thing around. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's a pretty sincere building it around him because nobody else remembers her or knows who she is. So they're really somebody may get involved at some point because of what he tells them or her involvement with Boyd at this point and Duffy. But for them to start it off with him being the only one that understands the importance of her is just really surprising. I didn't see that.
Yeah, but it's an interesting dimension to his character because all the time he's such a by-the-book guy. Even if he's good-natured about it and everything else, he's very by-the-book. He is far closer to Rachel than he is to Raylan,
right?
For example. But, in this instance, he is, like you said earlier, he is happily admits that he was kind of hoping she was dead.
Mm-hmm.
So,
damn, son, all right. Just say that shit, I guess.
Yeah, so... But he goes off to have that scene that we'll get to in a second. And Raylan takes this opportunity to go into the interrogation room and talk to Picker, who is glad to see Raylan and wants an apology from him based on how he's been treated, until he finds out that, that stuff with us earlier, no. We're way past that now.
Yeah.
And this is where we learn that Theo has fingered Picker as the shooter.
Picker in this scene... I just loved how fucking, he's so irritated at everybody. That Tonin did this, that Raylan's basically oh, our special relationship, fuck you. Everything that he kind of was banking everything on just doesn't mean shit at all in any way. And it's just, This is a guy who likes to be able to plan, and for everybody to basically, laugh in his face at all of the plans that he's made. Oh, it's got to be a blow to the ego. Sorry, dude.
Yeah.
But not sorry, because you're awful.
Yep.
Raylan lays
Raylan lays it on pretty thick. He's facing 40 years or the death penalty if Bart dies. And this is where Picker finds out he's got no good graces from cooperating with the Marshal Service previously.
Yep.
And then Picker does eventually say, that, he heard it was Daryl Crow. And this is right when Kirkland enters, and he wants Picker to help them get to Daryl. Picker wants to know what's in it for him, but all he gets back is prizes to be named later.
Which, he's no fool. He's not falling for that.
Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of an interesting way to put it, but I guess that we know that doesn't go anywhere because Picker is not making it out of the episode.
Right, yeah.
So, outside the interrogation room, we learn that there's video surveillance that says Picker couldn't have done this. So, everything that they're laying on there, even if they didn't know it at the time, it's all nothing.
Yes. Which I liked, that it's immediately just haha, nope. Good effort, but...
And then Raylan gets a phone call from Wendy Crow. And she's on the phone saying Daryl wants to turn himself in, but only to Raylan. So he's got to go get him.
Mm-hmm. Which, I kind of like... I feel like I should have seen it coming, that it turns out that he's like in a totally different place. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But then it turns out that he, like... goes and turns himself in, but he's not actually like taking any responsibility. So it just feels like you just made this huge production for nothing. Why did you do this? But I guess because he just assumes that he's going to be shot on sight. So, all right.
Well, I think on one hand it's a fair assumption. I think there's reason for him to say like that could happen. I also think second it sets up Kendall's story about I had to open fire because I just figured Raylan was going to draw on me and shoot.
Right.
And third, it gets Raylan out of the room and gives him enough time to lay the groundwork that they, hopefully lay the groundwork for this story that they're going to spin. So
yeah, that's fair.
I think it's got reasons more than just filling out the runtime or making Raylan, go on a wild goose chase. It is kind of a weird bit of business, though, just to mix the characters around for a little while and give you a nice note to end to go to commercial break on.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's fair.
But Raylan takes off, and meanwhile, Rachel is escorting Catherine into a meeting room with Vasquez. And yeah, this is where they have their conversation. There's clearly a past here. They are not friendly to each other.
No.
She describes Vasquez as a smug little hobbit-looking beaner shitbird who told the judge on what a no-account savage my late husband was, and that I was worse.
Yeah, I expected this to be like a sweet little, like, rivals who are on the other sides of the law, kind of like we saw in the previous episode with Hot Rod and What's-His-Face. Nope.
Yep. Nope.
Not like that. Not like that. Which is actually kind of nice because, like, this sort of like Hollywood, we're enemies, but really we understand each other kind of thing can get a little trite after a while. So I sort of loved that they really clearly fucking hate each other.
Yeah, it's really fun. And that's it. I love Mary Steenburgen so much. I don't know what the hell happened to her. She was in like Back to the Future 3 and a bunch of other movies in the early 90s. And then I don't think I saw her in anything until this show.
She was in, I think, didn't I say that she was like the mom and Step Brothers and stuff? When did that come out?
Oh, yeah. You did say that. We talked about this last
and
episode.
Elf and things. She always plays the mom and stuff.
Yeah, and I think she's just in such minor roles that I don't even notice her.
Yeah.
Which is sad because she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's great. It's because there are hardly any roles for women her age out there.
Also true. Yeah. But yeah, so they go back and forth, and Ben says he wants to see her for old time's sake. And yeah, this Rachel says most people, the marshal says she doesn't know who she is, and Catherine gets her to admit that he's disappointed she is still alive.
Yeah.
So in the interim, Raylan has gotten to Wendy Crow's hotel room, and she answers the door, and her face is trashed.
Ooh, I was not ready for that. Like,
yeah, like I didn't recognize her.
No,
until I heard her voice.
I don't think that the part of the fight that we saw had as much going like in her face. Like we see him punch her in the stomach and like shove her, and I think he kicks her at one point.
When she gets down on the ground, he kind of lays into her in a way we can't quite see.
Yeah, so I just didn't realize how bad that was going to be. And it makes the fact that I think she's letting her son take the fall here so much worse. But yeah, she looks terrible. This makeup is pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, Raylan comes in. He admits he's got a bunch of guys with him that are just out of her line of sight. Mm-hmm. And she really promptly admits that this was all just a ruse.
Yeah.
So that way Daryl could come out of hiding without getting shot on sight.
Mm-hmm.
At which point we cut back to the marshal's headquarters, and he shows up, hands in the air with Kendall, and surrenders. Yeah.
I was really hoping that this was going to be Daryl was turning himself in, because he like felt so bad about how bad he beat her that he finally agreed, like, all right, I'm going to end this. You know, like,
that would be an interesting twist.
I was hoping that he was going to man up a little bit, and maybe there would be some weird curveball that came out of, like, what, Dewey Crow showing up? I don't know. I'm just pulling shit. I don't know what's going on with Dewey now. But
right.
I just didn't. The way this goes just infuriates me on so many levels.
Yeah.
Girl,
yeah,
she is in an abusive relationship with her brother.
Yeah. Yeah, she really is. She really, really is.
And I hate the fact that they keep blaming Raylan for fucking Danny. Like, Danny did this shit with everybody. Don't try and act like you don't know how he was, guys. Like, it should be, like, somebody tells you he tried to come at me and fell on his own knife. Yeah, that sounds right. That should be your reaction. Because Danny is a fucking moron. But, you know, whatever. They're family and they have to think the best of him, even though they know that best was never true, ever.
But, you know, I feel like they, with the exception, like, Daryl has them all conditioned to love their like, fellow family members so much.
Yeah.
But it's, like, his sociopathy, I don't know, like, is that the right term? Like, he just seems to be able to move them around the way he wants to, and then, like, put them down when he's done using them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and when the rest of his family, I mean, Danny was kind of a blunt instrument, I guess. They pointed him right at Billy to go kill.
Right.
And I think, yeah, I don't know how he managed that, or maybe that's just their father that she mentions in the last episode got them on the whole family kick, and Daryl is just, you know, not human enough to have that kind of thing sunk into him, because he has no problem sacrificing this 13-year-old boy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he really believes, like, that it's best for the whole family that he not be in prison.
Yeah.
I think he has, like, told himself for long enough that he believes that, you know, he's got to be out there to look after everybody, is the way that he probably frames it to himself, you know?
I wonder how he defines everybody at this point.
Right?
But
yeah, there's not a whole lot left, buddy. When your version of looking out for somebody is, I'm going to tell the cops he did it. Well, maybe you suck at your job. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but the whole scene is just, well, I guess the real heartbreaking part is later, but yeah, they're at the marshal's office. Raylan's back. Wendy's immediately launching into her paralegal thing about, you know, their rights. And, yeah, then when the room quiets down, Kendall confesses that he's the shooter. And we're going to get his story in a minute, but now we go back to the prison, where it is ice cream day.
Yeah.
And I guess the lockdown ended because they couldn't find any evidence relating to Judith's death. And nobody's talking.
Which, she seems to be very, like, oh, well, that's cool. Like, it doesn't even occur to her until her buddy's like, hey, but people aren't idiots and they're going to figure it out. Like, yeah, maybe people aren't talking specifically because they want to be the ones to take care of this. You know, like,
yeah,
that definitely happens. It's like they're planning on dealing with it on their own.
Yeah, it was a little naive here. But Penny is, Penny's concerned about how Judith's girls are going to retaliate. Everyone seems to know that Ava did it, even though I guess no one said anything. And then there's a dramatic moment where they stand up and they walk by and they give Ava all of their ice cream.
Yeah.
It's such a fun little moment.
I really, like, I know, you know, from comments from listeners that people didn't like this moment.
Really?
Not this moment, this storyline with Ava in prison. But
okay.
I really find this kind of fascinating. Like, there's just... it's just an interesting thing to have after her depending on everybody for all of these seasons, to have her own thing where she's having to figure it out on her own without a, tough boyfriend with a gun to back her up in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and they all give her ice cream. There's like 10 ice creams there.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. I just did not see that coming. I'm thinking that they're about, because they were mean mugging. I thought this shit was about to go down.
Oh, yeah.
But nope.
It's a fun little reversal. And I agree. And we've talked in past episodes that I've said I wasn't a big fan of Ava in this season. But as we watched it, I said I'm liking it more than I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my main memories of this plot line were Ava being really whiny in the first couple of episodes. And I remember Boyd letting Ficus go after tracking him down for a while. Those were the things that really burned into my memory about her story this season. And it made me nuts. And I'm surprised on the rewatch how much more there was to it that just didn't make an impression the first time through. Because I really did like a lot of what they've done.
Sorry, you're kind of fading out there. You were saying it didn't make an impression but you really did.
Oh, but I really do like a lot of what they've done in here. It just didn't make an impression the first time for some reason.
I think that it might be just like, I'm a chick. I think that it like me being like into a part of the show that you're not is going to give you a different impression of it. Just like me watching something with Rashawn as a black woman is going to give me a different perspective on something that I hadn't really thought about at all. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Even like I was telling her when we were recording Dresden Files the other day, it always, like the male gaze stuff in those books always bothered me. But it wasn't until I started to talk about it with her and then re-listen to the audiobooks. They're still great and I love them. But the male gaze stuff is even like more egregious than I remember. And it's not until I start to talk about it that I like really see it. So I think that, there's just, we get in a habit in the way that we watch things. And it can just be surprising once you start to talk to people that you're like, oh yeah, I definitely have had that with, a couple of the groups that I'm in that talk about TV and movies. And I'll be like having a pretty firm opinion on something. And then somebody will be like, well, if you think about this and this and this is actually garbage. And I'm like, oh shit, you're right. This is garbage. And I feel like really like, why did I not see that? But yeah, that's what chatting is for, man.
Totally. No, it's funny you mentioned the male gaziness of the Dresden Files because I just went and saw a sneak preview of Atomic Blonde, the new Charlize Theron movie coming out, and we got free passes to go check it out, and I had a lot of fun with it. It was not the movie I expected it to be. I kind of thought it was advertised like Lady John Wick, but it's really like a gritty Generation X spy thriller in the late Cold War. But I couldn't help but notice just how much, like, Charlize Theron's a beautiful woman. She needs no help in getting that across to the audience. But the movie cannot help itself, framing her in just such a way at every opportunity.
Yeah.
To the point of distraction. And honestly, it's something that, it's not that I'd never heard the term before or wasn't aware of it kind of objectively, but I'm a lot more sensitive to that kind of thing in the media that I'm consuming. Really large result because of your podcasts.
Oh.
Because you guys do talk about it often, and I think because it needs to be brought up. I consider myself a fairly intelligent guy and a fairly observant guy, but it's just something I never put too much stock in. Because as a straight guy, I like Charlize Theron. But it really is just like, really? You can't find any other way to do this than have her take another shower?
This is like the kind of thing, because the way you're like, I consider myself an observant person. And that's what I really wish people would like understand a little bit more is like, if you didn't see this, don't take it personally or be defensive that you didn't notice, because I am in year 5 of doing podcasts, and there is a lot of shit that I have changed my stance on or become more aware of since I started. And that's a good thing. Like, you should learn. If you feel like you know everything already, you're an idiot. You don't. You really don't, I promise. And you can be very observant and still not, like, you're just not going to be able physically as a human to live the experience of every type of human out there. So there are just naturally going to be things that don't speak to you or that you don't notice because it's not part of your deal. That's just how being alive works. So you just have to like be aware that you don't get to have every perspective simultaneously, and keep an eye out for when somebody mentions something and start to like notice that. I know for me, something that I haven't really like completely absorbed, I'm pretty aware of sexism, I'm pretty aware of racism. Ableism is something that I'm not super aware about. And when it's pointed out to me, I'm like, oh yeah. Like oftentimes once it's pointed out, you're like, I can't believe I didn't see that. Ooh, shit. But I don't. And it's a thing that like I'm creating this cast of characters for this book I'm writing. And I have all these different women of different races, of different backgrounds. I didn't have anybody who had like a disability of any kind, or who was struggling with like mental illness or anything like that really needs representation, you know? And once I realized that, and I also realized that I was like casting them all in a similar age range. And I was like, yep. I have this like sort of, you know, typical Hollywood idea of what a female character's age is, you know, mid to late 20s, maybe. That I started to really notice, like, I just go with things without really thinking about why I do that. And it's just the Charlize Theron's movie, like, I was excited about the idea of a woman who's like a badass, but you can see from the preview that it's just so male gazy, and they have her making out with a woman. And it's like, you know, let's be honest. We all know why. Just don't try and sugarcoat it, guys. And
I will say the movie is, I know it's not the point, but the movie actually is pretty good. I do encourage people to go see it. I liked it, but I really was just driven to distraction by it.
I'll probably go see it. And as a woman, we learn to turn our brains off to some of that, because otherwise we can't enjoy things. Like, it's just so pervasive. But it's part of what is so important about having female directors. Having a female director on Wonder Woman changed the tone and the way that Wonder Woman is filmed, so that it was very noticeable that she's not under the male gaze. Sure, there's a focus on her being beautiful, like in, you know, different points in the script and everything, which is just because that is part of her character, is that she's superhuman looking. But it's never feeling like, you know, we're watching her with her back arched and her ass out while she's fighting. You know, she always looks strong, and it's not a big deal. And I don't know if you saw the script that had come out that was apparently like part of what Joss Whedon had been going to do.
I did not read it. I read several articles about it, and people were pretty upset.
Oh my God. Joss Whedon is somebody who is held up as this like feminist writer, and he does better than many. And that's as much as I'll say about that. But this script was so full of male gazy, like the whole, like, oh, there's all women on this island, and do they fuck, and can I watch kind of jokes. Jokes about, like, they're just find it, guys, and read it, and you'll see exactly what I mean. That, sure, you can have a woman with, like, as a female superhero in a movie, and that's great, but you can still fuck it up by the way that you handle it. And that's why having women handle it is so important, because guys don't even know they're doing it a lot of the time. It's just such a huge part of Hollywood and marketing that it's kind of just taken as, well, this is how we do this. It's not even seen as like, hey, maybe we could like lay off on that. They're like, well, literally, how else would we do this? You know? So anyway, that's my soapbox, but it's just something that I've really like started to realize, that the male gaze is like so insidious that
it is.
Women can even do it, even as directors, and not even like quite realize. Like, yeah.
Well, I think that's part of it too, and not to make this tangent go too much longer, but it is. It's also like, it doesn't mean because we see it, it is our job to solve this issue in the world. But just being aware of it is going to make you just look at things a lot more critically. The fact that Joss Whedon wrote the script, it doesn't invalidate all the other great stuff that he did, but it is important to be aware of it and to look at what you're seeing. I mean, I remember when Ridley Scott did Exodus, Gods and Kings, the Moses movie that he did a few years ago.
God, I don't remember that. Okay.
It was underwhelming, unfortunately. I can go on a whole Ridley Scott thing, but I won't. He mentioned they noticed he cast Christian Bale as Moses, and I forget who it was, Ramses, but it was another white British dude. And they asked him, how could you do that? And he said, I can't just go casting Muhammad so-and-so from such and such in my movie because no one will finance it. And he was rightfully so completely blasted, just lambasted right and left for saying that. But he's a guy who's been working in the system for 35 years. And to an extent in which he can be right, he's right. That's what they tell you, and that's how you learn to work after that amount of time. He's also a guy with enough power that I bet he could have pulled that off if he'd thought real hard about it. But you get inducted into that kind of thinking because if you don't stop to consider what you're doing.
And it's something that, like, I really wish there was a little bit more education about there that wasn't quite as, like, SJWE as it can be. Because it can get so accusatory if you don't already know what they're talking about that you feel like they're berating you for not knowing this shit already. And it's something that is so difficult to really explain unless you get really into it. Because when I mentioned this to other dudes before, they try and throw back, well, what about the female gaze? And I'm like, that's literally not a thing. That just isn't a thing. And then they try and bring up something like Magic Mike. And I'm like, you name for me 3 other movies like that. Go ahead and name 2 other movies like that, and not the other Magic Mike movie. And it's crickets every time. The male gaze is an established thing that has been a thing since movie making started, and when women are occasionally taken into account, it's an anomaly, but it is not. It's like reverse racism. There has to be a power dynamic there for it to exist, and reverse racism isn't real because black people and people of color in general do not have power in the system, so they can't actually oppress anybody. So the female gaze is objectifying and, robbing of power and agency, and it's not a thing that can happen. Even in Magic Mike, each of those characters was an established, fully realized human being. They were very distinctive people with goals and personalities, and they were not just hot dudes. They had a whole history. And women in that kind of role, it's so rare for that to be a thing. They are not treated as whole people. So it's just not, that comparison just drives me so bananas. So anyway, guys, but I just think it's worth talking about,
Yeah, no, I thought that's a worthy detour. So anyway, we are, but we see Ava becoming Queen of Ice Cream, and then we go back to the saddest scene, which is back at the Marshal's headquarters, and we hear Kendall's statement.
Yeah, this
one's his
rough.
tale about how he did it and why he did it. He's got a lawyer there who is trying to protect his client's rights, and
just so we're all aware, he's a child. We're going to take that into account, right? That he's a child. We're going to do that, just so you know, because he's real young. I don't know if you guys are aware. He's little. He's small. He's a child.
Minuscule. Yeah. And it's pretty bad. I mean, and he's not like he's not an actor who this actor does not overact at any point.
No.
And in this scene especially, it comes across, I don't know that it comes across feeling real exactly, but it's real enough for everybody in the room. And you have Wendy just out of focus off camera, like with her lip quivering the entire time. And it's pretty rough.
He's so good, this kid. I can't deal. I want him to be in a lot more stuff. I hope that he turns out to be hot, because if he's just grows up weird looking like Haley Joel Osment, he's got no hope. But if he turns out to be good looking, then he might just really have a future doing some shit, hopefully. Or if he looks weird looking, but in like the character actor weird, where he can still make it work in some way, you know?
Right. Or if he's really weird looking, he can just go to the theater and he'll be okay there.
Nah. Face for radio, kid.
Yeah. But yeah, so he tells his whole story, and it's pretty shitty, and he takes a bunch of opportunities to kind of needle at Raylan in a way that I don't even totally know how much he's aware of and how much he's parroting back something that Daryl reminded him to say.
Yeah.
But essentially, he went there, he had a gun just in case, and he saw a guy with a badge, and he thought it was the same one as the man who killed Danny. I thought maybe the same man was here for me, looking to bury me beside my uncle.
Those are some lines they should have known were some lines, but okay.
Yeah. And and again, Wendy sells the hell out of this.
Yeah.
I should say this, the actress sells the hell out of this. And Raylan, like you said, spends the whole time just his eyes are getting narrower and narrower and narrower.
Oh, God, I kind of love it. I can't lie. Like, he's just so disgusted. Oh, it's great.
So now we go back to the same hotel room with Boyd and Picker and Duffy and Catherine again. And they've come back to the same place to finish their meeting because they really didn't have anything to hold them on.
I was like, I got confused for a second because we just go right back to where we'd been and it feels just the same. Like, I thought that I had skipped back somehow. Like, mm-hmm. I got all mixed up, but yeah. Picking up right where we left off.
Yeah, and Picker even makes a comment about the balls on Boyd to want to finish this meeting today.
Mm-hmm.
But Boyd says, we're already into it, so let's see this through. And his pitch is that Duffy and Picker can have half of his half, because that is all that he has.
Yep.
And Duffy's not pleased about it, but Picker is furious.
Yeah.
And he wants to send Boyd's head to Mexico in a box.
Like, honestly, what does he think that's going to accomplish? Like, he's already said, I guess Pickers must be thinking that Boyd's full of shit about the dope being hidden. He must really think that he's going to kill Boyd and then he's just going to tear the place apart and he'll find it. Like, right?
Yeah, or he's either that or he is so invested in the idea of there must be consequences to this.
Mm-hmm.
That he isn't bothering to look past what those consequences would actually accomplish. Maybe that they would scare other people into giving up the dope.
Maybe.
Or it would let the world know that we won't let things like this stand, or just some other ego bullshit.
Right.
And I recognize ego and reputation is an important thing in this world, but all the same, yeah, it isn't very well thought out, and it leads to something very close to a shouting match between Duffy and Picker.
I was glad because I know, I was just a little bit worried with the way that this was going, that Duffy wasn't going, because, when he's like, check him again, and Duffy's like, whatever. I was kind of like, oh, I really hope they don't have him getting pushed around by this guy. But I should have known, because he says whatever in the, I am picking my battles and this isn't worth it kind of tone of voice. Not the just oh, do what you want. So I really liked that he literally stands up and gets in his face. Like, he is somebody that you can forget how scary he is because he's so affable and charming so much of the time. But when he gets up and screams at him, for a second, I was like, oh shit, and I think Picker was a little too.
Yeah. Duffy's been pretty cowed for most of this season.
Yes.
And it's not in the same way around Quarles, he was afraid of Quarles.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not afraid of Picker, but I think he's just sort of lost for a lot of this season. So he's kind of in the background for way too much of it, frankly. He's too good of a character to be in the background this often.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I just I have the show on while we are recording.
Yeah.
And I just got to the part where it explodes and I forgot how gruesome that is. That is rough.
Oh yeah.
Woo!
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I'm rewinding that. That's some like Peter Jackson level shit.
Yeah, and but Duffy stalks off. Boyd offers Picker a cigarette, and Picker's not really interested, but Boyd picks it up and tosses him the pack. And before he tosses it, he does this little click with his finger.
Mm-hmm.
And Picker catches it and holds them up and says, "This shit'll kill you." And then Picker blows up.
That's the most beautiful line. And he blows up, and his eyes are wide, and his head flops down, and it's because he's dead. But it looks for a second like he's looking down at his own guts, like what just happened.
Oh, he looks so shocked.
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
It was quite well done. And I like the fact that even though Boyd knows it's coming, he still screams. Because it's like, it's scary. It's this fucking explosion. Like, yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty wonderful. And Boyd tells everybody, he takes out Mike really quickly because everyone's in shock.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells them it was 2 ounces of Emulex on a 10-second timer. And he doesn't know a lot about a lot of things, but he does know how to blow shit up. And then he says, "My offer still stands. Half of my half." And he takes off. So, once again, always the businessman. Despite all that bullshit.
I feel bad for poor Mike as he gets up off the floor. He's like shaking and just shocked. Like,
yeah.
I think, I'm not sure if this is a real, like, thing that I'm... the actor like kind of put into place, but there's almost a little bit of like a guilty look because he let this in, like how would he know it's in a fucking cigarette, but still I think there might be like an element of just like, this was my one job.
Right. No, I definitely think so. I said way back in season like 1 or 2 that I love Mike as a side character. He doesn't really do much, but especially as we get deeper into the show, he does create a really, really subtle little background character.
Yeah.
That I enjoy.
Agreed.
So, Boyd leaves them to consider his offer and, I guess, clean up the mess. And then we go back to Marshall's headquarters, our last big scene, where Kirkland's on his way back to Detroit, and Rachel gets basically a field promotion to interim boss, that Art had picked her and sealed that away somewhere.
Yeah, she's like, this scene was so moving. I just loved it. I love it that it's a black woman getting put in place and the black man is delivering the news to her.
Sure.
Like, I just really kind of like that aspect of it. And I love the fact that we've been saying that she needs to be promoted. And it just like, I think I like just said that a few episodes ago, that I was just like, everybody, she's the one with the head on her shoulders. Hello. Uh-huh. And it turns out Art's no dummy. He fucking knows that. Natasha, chill out.
Yeah, it is a nice little moment for her, and she has not gotten a lot of moments over the past 5 seasons.
She looks so moved when she gets it. Like, she really, it's so sweet. I loved it. It's so good. Yay.
I said, she's the Hermione of The Office, honestly. She is the one who has studied really hard and knows all the rules.
That is
true. She takes this job really, really, really seriously. And it pays off for her. So, good stuff.
Yeah.
Then we go over to the interview room where it's Raylan and Daryl. And this is Raylan. He uncuffs Daryl and escorts him to the elevator. And on the way, he matlocks this whole thing where he lays out what he believes Daryl's whole thing was.
I love that as he's leading him out, everybody stares at him like they all know.
Uh-huh.
They all just think he is such scum. Like, it was bad enough that you shot one of our dudes, our beloved boss, but now you're going to let your little brother take the fucking fall? Like, just such scum. But it's pretty satisfying because I wasn't sure if they believed it. And this moment when he leaves him out, really, I don't think anybody bought it. I think it was like, it was convincing in the moment until they got a chance to think about it for a second. You know what I mean?
I think that's fair. And I like that there's a minute here where Daryl tries to turn it back around on Raylan And Raylan says, it's you shot the one man that makes a difference to me. Mm-hmm. And Daryl tries to turn this into a thing about his brother. And you see Raylan he turns into a statue.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he knows if he makes any move whatsoever, he's going to separate that man's head from its body.
Yeah. And he has his hand by his gun, and he's like,
"Oh yeah,
I'm trying to not do this. Don't make me do this, buddy. Just walk away."
Yeah. And I love as he goes into the elevator, Raylan tells him, "That web of bullshit you spun around yourself to protect yourself, I'm going to use it to strangle the life out of you, take away everything you've got. Then you're going to wish I blacked you out with bullets in the head."
That is a really good series of lines. I liked it. Because this kind of like confrontation talk, it can be really silly feeling. And it's a combination of the setting, the acting, and everything. It was very effective. I feel like Timothy Oliphant, Raylan as a character is infuriating a lot. So there's that. Timothy Oliphant is gorgeous. So there's that. So these two things can make me not give him the credit that he deserves as far as an actor who has created somebody very real. And
especially because Boyd is so much more fun to watch a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's easy for him to feel like he takes the spotlight. But yeah, he's so good.
And Raylan is like, even when he's on the right side of things, it often feels like it's for the wrong reasons. So you kind of want to slap and shake him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice for like this moment to feel that he is on the right side for all the right reasons right now. Genuinely 100% calling out some gross bullshit that this guy has done. And I feel like he has the backing of everybody else behind him when he says this, which sort of adds a whole other like weight to what he's saying. But yeah, the fact that he is being mature enough to be like, oh no, I'm just going to like take the whole bullshit story that you have woven here and strangle you with it. That is some growth, I feel like, that we're seeing here. We're seeing a little bit of maturity from him. So that's nice.
Right.
So, stay on that track, Raylan. Appreciate it.
Seriously. And then we go to our very last scene of the episode, which is Raylan coming back to the hospital and checking on Art and going to sit watch in the ICU waiting room.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all. And all we can do is watch him sit there and watch
worry.
him wait.
Yeah.
And worry. Yeah. So what do you think about Art's situation?
It's such a bummer because he did this because he didn't trust Raylan. And it just, he is always taking the fall for Raylan's bullshit.
Mm.
And this is just the most literal manifestation of that we've really seen. And I know that Raylan isn't much for introspection and doesn't learn his lessons a lot of the time. But I'm really hoping that it being this much of like a baldly obvious situation will lead to him having to face, to a degree, what's happened. The fact that Art used to trust him, even though Raylan was questionable, it always felt like Art just gave him some slack and still trusted him. And now you've gotten to this point where he doesn't. And that means something, because this Art is not an unreasonable guy. Art isn't somebody who hasn't gone outside of the law on his own a couple of times, which we have seen. It's not something that's out of the question for him. But there is a limit. And Raylan behaves like Art is unreasonable or too stringent. And it's like, I think maybe he might start to see that, hey, you know what? The line that he has is there for a reason. That's not just some arbitrary thing that he holds me to, but nobody else. So I
nice.
I want things to be like better between them again. And I think it's really it's possible it's too late. It's possible once you got shot for a dude, you can't be friends with him again.
Well, let me ask you an even more basic question. Does Art wake up?
I think he does.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. I want to say that I'm not sure, but I feel pretty sure that he will.
Okay. I will be honest with you, without saying whether it happens one way or the other. As soon as this season began and Art was talking about how close he is to retirement.
Oh, no.
I was waiting for this all season.
I didn't even think about that. When does he say that? What episode?
Like the first episode of the season, he's talking about getting ready for retirement. A couple episodes later, he's talking about, he's only got this much time left. At the end of last season with Theo Tonin, this is a great case to end his career on.
That's so funny. I didn't even notice that.
Oh yeah, I've been waiting for this. So that's funny that you didn't pick up on that at all.
Yeah, but, no, I didn't even think about it. Yeah. That's funny.
So we will have to wait and see what happens. And we've got 2 episodes to go.
Man, just 2. That's crazy. And then season 6 is how many episodes?
It's the same. It's 13.
13, okay.
Yeah. And I'm very excited about season 6. I really, really am. It's a really strong season.
Oh, cool. That's a nice change. Usually when you get into 6, like 6 and 7 usually tend to be seasons that they really start to just kind of coast,
Yeah.
And
but
coasting, that's actually kind of generous. They often just nosedive.
Yeah. No, I do not believe that's the case with this at all. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Man. All right. Well, I'm going to say hi to new patrons. This past week we have Nainish Patel, Christopher Milner, Catherine Ross, Heather Lingerfelt, Lindsay Ayers, Monique White, and Daniel Keogh all signed up. So welcome to all you guys. Thank you so much. If you are $5 and below, you'll have access to the Game of Thrones episodes that are going to be going up soon. And you'll also be able to listen to the Godfather episode that I posted last week. If you are $5 and up, you get to listen to Twin Peaks, which I'm currently doing with Maggie. And I'm really finally getting back into it because the middle of season 2 of Twin Peaks is rough.
It's a fucking drag is what it is.
Oh, brother. They got me all hyped up in season 1 with it being such a tight story. And then they were like, well, and just fucking dragged that shit out.
Oh, yeah.
But we're getting into the end of that season, which is starting to pick back up again with the supernatural stuff, which is what I like. And we're going to watch season 3 once we're done with this one, which I hear a lot of mixed things about. Have you been watching season 3, Mr. Allen?
I have not, unfortunately. I really want to. And Amanda hasn't seen Twin Peaks at all. And I don't get to watch TV unless she's there most of the time.
Gotcha.
So sometime I'm going to squirrel away some time and watch it because I've also heard mixed things. I've also heard that it is super, super, super weird, which is about right for David Lynch. It's part of what infuriates me about him, but it's also part of when it's good weird, it's great weird. So I can't wait to watch it, but not yet.
I saw... Because, it was airing, I think they released 3 episodes at a time. It was done in a weird way that I had never seen done before. But the night that some episodes were released, I saw 3 people's statuses who said that one person said, I know I'm having nightmares tonight. Another person said, I don't think I've ever been more terrified by anything put to film. And it was all on the same night. So apparently there's one episode that's really fucking scary. So cool. I'm real interested in that because when that show gets scary, it is kind of jarring because it plays it so kind of campy. And then all of a sudden it pulls it out and it's hey, this is terrifying. And I'm like, oh my God, stop it. So it's been a roller coaster to cover because I had such a good time at first, and then I was like, why are you doing this to me? James is awful. I don't care.
Oh,
Stop
God.
it. Nadine is a mess. Can we please not? Like,
oh no, you're gonna sit through every raw second of that.
So yeah, guys, you can listen to that if you're $5 and up, and if you're $4 and below, you will get to listen to it eventually. It's just those, the series that I'm currently covering are only open to people after they are completed. If they're $4 and below. So, because I've had some confusion about that from people who are trying to access stuff. I think that's everything. Is there anything that you wanted to add, sir?
Nope, nothing new. My Twitter is still there, @AlKingsley. Come follow me. I'm hilarious. And we have a book club coming up on August 5th. You and I are talking about The Girl with All the Gifts.
Oh, right, and I haven't started reading that, so I need to get on that.
I'm really excited to talk about it. It is such a cool book.
I have, it's my first book that I'll be reading on the Kindle that I got, so we'll see how I like that.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, but I'm really interested in it because all I know about it is that there's a girl that's kind of a creep. That's what I know. I will encourage you to go into the book knowing nothing else. Really, truly do your best not to learn anything, because that's how I went into it, and it was a joy. Yeah, I had a couple people who tried to tell me shit, and I'm just like, guys, I cannot emphasize enough how much that irritates me. Don't do it. But I managed to, like, stop them before they tried to fill me in, because I guess there was a movie. So there were a lot of people who were like, well, I don't know how it is in the book, but in the movie. And I'm like, no, don't you do it. So
good. And I have the movie. The movie is also quite good. They change one thing that is questionable. But we'll talk more about that on August 5th. If you like that sort of incisive, commentary, then you should tune in.
And just so you guys know, I am no longer doing the book clubs live like I had been. That was something that wasn't really like working out. It was a lot of extra work to be able to convert things from video to audio, and the audio quality often suffered, and few people showed up to the live ones. So I have started to just do them like I do all my other ones via Skype. But, I still encourage conversation and participation in the book club group on Facebook. It's facebook.com/groups/ or I guess it's not backslash, it's /groups/ Unspoiled Book Club if you guys are interested. All right, cool. Well, thank you, sir, for being here this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I was excited to do this.
And everyone, we will see you next week with a new episode. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, everybody.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some? I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at you, boy. You try to go God, fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some? I see them long, hard times to come. My life is hell, son. Prepared to kill, son. A paradox of pain, baby, it's real, son. Lonely traveler, ain't trying to bow to you, but if you're feeling tough, dog, I walk up all challenges.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.